Welcome to another Tactical Tuesday. Before we commence with the material that we're going to be covering today, I kind of want to give a summary or a synopsis of what Tactical Tuesday is all about. This can apply to the people that are watching this all the time. I think we have about 2 months worth of material now on a weekly basis. I want to refresh, I want to reset, I want to make sure that the focus is what we are trying to present here. And what are we trying to present here? What does Tactical Tuesday offer to you as a starter kit player? Is this simply just a replay? Is it a tutorial, or what is it? What Tactical Tuesday is a demonstration of gameplay. And you say, Stu, what does that mean? Is it a replay? I know what replays are. I know what a demonstration of SK is. Not really. A demonstration is just not playing the game. What it is we're trying to learn how to use the rules that are in Starter Kit versus just playing the game with the rules. There's a difference there. And if you know the difference, then Tactical Tuesday is definitely for you. So you've got the rules down. Now you're just kind of playing through the game. You're using the rules as they come up, and that's about it. What we like to do here is different from like a replay. We just don't, use the rules. We move over here, we fire, we route, we rally, we repair machine guns, we roll rates to fire. All that is, we're beyond the scope of the simple playing of the game. What we like to do here, and when I say we, it's we. So we join on the Discord server and we have conversations about the gameplay. And it doesn't matter whose game it is, but we have conversations about the entire gameplay. What we like to do is we like to develop concepts which help you understand the game of SK and also help you develop your complete game of Starter Kit. So what does that mean? So that means that we're not going to give you the best setup. We're not going to give you the best attack. We're not going to give you, okay, these units are only used for this. What we are doing is just showing what your style of play is. And we're focusing on what your style of play is allowing you to do during the course of a game. Say, Stu, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. My style of play, whatever. We're not here to change your style, to give you a different style that you don't like or you're not used to. It's your personality that we're not changing. If you like to play aggressive and we look at your game and your game is an aggressive game style, if it's wrong for that game, we don't care. We're going with your style and how it applies to that game. Whether you're going to win that game with your style, that's not up to us to decide. That's the way you like to play the game. Play the game continually like that. What we do here is we refine that style. We don't change it, we refine it. You got you're aggressive or you're conservative or you're a little bit of both. What we like to do is chisel off. What we like to do is clip those counters. Clip those damn counters of your play style. Clipping those counters using those Oregon laminated, but they're not sponsoring us. But we clip around your style to refine it. Say, okay, you like to be aggressive. Let's learn how to be aggressive effectively. You like to be conservative. Okay, fine. Let's be conservative. Do we need to do this? Do we need to do that? We look at what your results are and your actions and develop a refined style that supports the way you like to play. So primarily for SK players and ASL players for that matter, but we focus on the SK player here. The primary thing that we like to do in the game is remind players of the victory conditions. The victory conditions is the prime directive, per se, that we need to look at before we even start playing the game. Okay? If you don't understand the victory conditions, your play style may or may not mesh with those conditions. And if they don't mesh with those conditions, by understanding the play style, by understanding the victory conditions, you can actually tune your play style to best accommodate what the scenario requires of you. So what does that mean, Stu? What the hell? I mean, if I'm defending, you tell me I can't be aggressive? No. Doesn't mean you can't be aggressive. But you might have to selectively be aggressive. So join us and you can see the very details that we go into. We go into lots of details. Other things we focus on is the OB. Your OB differs, and today's game is very specific. The OB in this game is very unforgiving in terms of what you need to do. And we discussed that a little bit during this game. If you like to be overly aggressive, your OB may not be suitable for that action during this game. Another thing we always cover is routing. When you say, Stu, I already know how to route. What are you talking about? Guys break, I run back, that rally, I go forward. It all happens, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. Wrong. If you think routing is that way, you're playing it incorrectly. You are ignoring routing for what routing is. So we have an almost every single Tactical Tuesday, we go an extensive analysis of routing in every single episode and the importance of routing. It's not simply a phase between you firing at units. If that's what you consider it to be, Tactical Tuesday might not be for you. But if you say, hey, I didn't know that, maybe I should learn what routing is more about. Again, we're not teaching you how to route. We're teaching you how to use the route rules. You already know how to route. You already know how to fire. You already know how to rally. We're teaching you how to use the rules to maximize your potential. And so join us if you're interested in watching these. You're obviously interested in watching these particular videos. But if you're interested in joining the conversation, the live conversation of about 8 guys on a weekly basis, you're welcome to bring your SK games, or welcome just to watch and listen. You don't have to, participate. But participation is how we all grow as SK players, all right? Or if you want to go further on at SK, it doesn't really matter. But your participation is key. Your answers may be something that no one else has thought about. There are plenty of times, if you've watched these previous episodes, there's 100 things that I missed that someone else says, hey, what about that over there? Yeah, hey, I didn't think about that. Boom. That's what it's all about. It's about getting everybody's ideas and analyzing those ideas and how they apply to the situation. Some are much more valuable than others. Some are valuable at this point in time and need to be scrapped if a different situation presents itself. So that's what we're all about, is getting the minds together, hashing stuff out, trying to understand key concepts, trying to get the rules right, because it's easy to misinterpret a rule. We try to get the rules right and play by the rules. So if you want to join us on the Discord server, again, 17:30 Pacific Daylight Time every Tuesday, we're out here hashing it out for 2 to 3 hours. Okay? Some guys hang a little later. I usually want it to go about 2 hours, but we usually, if you want to leave early, leave early. We don't care. Come and go as you please. That's the beauty of the Discord server. Pop in and out as you please. You don't have to knock on a door. You have to bother anybody about, hey, can I get in? Hey, can you open up this? No, bullshit. Just click on the server, click on the room, mute your mic, and sit back and listen. That's all you really have to do. That's all you have to do. If you think that this material is very useful and you want to go beyond just watching the videos and you want to support the channel and support better concepts and better ideas coming out, there's the Patreon link right down below. Feel free to join the Patreon network. I usually refer to them very often as with new ideas and think what do they want to do? What do they want to see in the upcoming videos that I have? They've been very supportive. So if you like to be able to support the channel, if you like what we're doing here, think about supporting the channel. That's all. So I hope you enjoy today's scenario analysis. It's between 2 pretty good players. They're up and coming players. They're learning a lot. Very different styles of play. But both are very sharp players. And I think it's very refreshing to see, activities and discussions about the concepts that we've covered in the past come up in future scenarios. They're taking what they're learning in the past and applying them to the present. So very important. I enjoyed this scenario, very tight little scenario, and then we'll go over it. We'll describe what happens in the scenario. John actually provided the game. He's going to go over the synopsis of the game, the victory issues, and things like that, and then we begin our discussions. Thanks for stopping by. The intro is a little longer than normal, but I think we just need to reiterate why we are here. We're not just a replay. We're not just bullshit SK. You know, if you want to learn SK, you can read the rules. If you want to learn how to play it well and interpret the rules, join our discussions. Thanks a lot. Enjoy the show, and we'll catch you later. So, all right, let's get started on the way back. I think Jeremy Smithy might be in the room, and Bull's of course in the room. But it's great to have Bull. So we are going to cover. I just replayed this one a little bit here, and we could look up. This is the game between John and Keith, and John can give us the intro, VVC, kind of his thoughts, and then we can go from there. I really haven't analyzed it too much. Well, I've looked at one thing right now, and I actually, you need to know the special rules and all that other good stuff in order to look at a scenario and to see what's going on in a scenario. And, oh, god dang it, I didn't put this here. So, I think everyone's synced up to me. We'll get started with John's game here. He could describe what we're seeing on the screen. If you would go over the scenario for us, John, because I honestly don't even know the victory conditions on this one here. I read your synopsis and your game summary, and I'm not exactly sure where we are in the game, but John can elucidate all that information, and then we can go from there at whatever pace that he wants to go at, and then we could do that. I think you're the Germans, right, John?
Yes, I am. I was the defender on this one, and Keith was the attacker. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another Tactical Tuesday. And the scenario this evening that we're going to start off with a little bit is scenario S43, clearing Carrington. If it doesn't sound immediately familiar to you, MMP came out with a Beyond the Beaches bonus pack for Starter Kit 1.
Which I have been looking for.
Yeah, for about 15 minutes, about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's they came out, the initial version had 3 scenarios in it, and the reissue, which came out I think about 4 or 5 years ago, had 4. This is one of the original 3 scenarios, and it had 2 things in it that I'd not used before. And first off was a lot of artillery, and it was off-board artillery basically, and I sure don't remember the SS units being there. That's interesting.
Well, okay. These are your HIP units, and so if I HIP them, you guys can't see them, and so I'm going to put SS units there for the HIP units.
Oh, they're already there. I'll just unhip them if you want me to.
Well, no, it's just so just to signify that they're HIP. That's all.
Great. Okay.
I hadn't realized that. I was like, oh, wait a minute. Oh yeah, you won't be able to see them if I HIP them.
Okay.
So, these guys are. I'm sorry to break your concentration on that.
But obviously, 2 things that you hadn't used in Starter Kit 1 to this point, if you'd been sort of playing through the scenarios, was artillery and hidden in place units, and this had sort of watered down entry level versions of both. The German had 2 pre-registered hexes that he could designate as being sort of the center point of his barrage. And if you can see, hopefully you can see the, I don't know if you can see this or not, but when it comes in like gangbusters. I'm going to put it over here in the lower left-hand version of the map there, and you can see you've got 7 hexes that this thing covers, 16 firepower. That was good and bad in the same breath, because number one, I had 2 locations that I can bring in that amount of firepower, but I also want to make sure that it didn't frag my own units. And so trying to figure out, what can I do to assist myself in the game, because I'm pretty severely outnumbered here. I'm right at about 2 to 1, and their artillery was going to be the great equalizer along with the 2 hidden units. And the one thing I could rely on was that he was eventually going to have to go to the buildings in the south center part of the board, down around here,
Right.
because with the victory conditions. And I think the scenario said all of the buildings had to be cleared,
Wow.
determined between hex row K and hex row D, numbered less than 5. And so actually, this one up here was a hex.
Oh, right.
L.
Wow, that's kind of weird.
There are 13 victory condition buildings on the board. We're not even talking about the massive, tractor factory over here. So, and so that was going to be where I put my 2 HIP units. I had one in F5, 548 and 38.
Oh, sorry.
A light machine gun, and my heavy machine gun, and a 548 and my 8.1 liter are in the multi-hex building at E4, D3, that whole thing. Knowing that he was going to have to come down to clear out, those 13 buildings, I tried to sort of array what forces I had left to sort of slow him down a bit and sort of draw him into a fire trap. The 2 hexes that I had, Stu's already marked for us with the artillery request scattergrams at I3 down here, and I think this is L7 right here, something like that.
Yeah.
Even though Stu has berated me repeatedly for not starting a log file at the beginning of each and every game, I failed on this game, and so you missed the onrush of American paratroopers coming into Carrington, and you pick it up at about you've missed the first rally phase, which is no big deal.
Yeah.
Movement, and this is the first offensive fire phase. The way the special scenarios work is that the German can call in 3 artillery strikes on those 2 locations. So he's got 3 shots, 7 hexes, 16 firepower each. That leaves a hole. And I guess it's just luck of the draw, but found both of those. And the one down south, where my 3rd and last artillery strike came in, that had results just way out of proportion of what I thought could be reasonably expected. And we'll see that in just a little bit when Stu goes through the replay. But where we're picking this up now is that, again, the German had 3 artillery requests he could make, and process went like this. If you had, I think you rolled 1 die, and if it was no, my bad. If it was, you rolled 2 die, and if the colored die, if it was between 1 and 4, it hit in no time on target. The center of the little rose there landed right on there, and the 6 hexes around it were affected with the same amount of firepower. Not having played full ASL before, I don't know if there's other things like that in the offing, but that really tore up a lot of real estate. So is that how offboard artillery works in full ASL, Stu?
Ask when can you declare your offboard like strikes? Does it give you, because it's got to set that out in the SSRs. When does the
It does.
When does that happen?
You can do it in either the final fire portion of the defensive fire phase,
okay,
or in the prep fire phase. Those are the only 2 times that you can do that.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty much the same thing.
Since it's very simplified, you don't have any roles for radio contact. You don't have to have observer rules or anything like that. It just sort of sort of a rods from God kind of thing. I mean, this is just.
So you have, I'm sorry. So you have 3 fire missions, is that right? So you have 3 times that you can call down artillery.
Yes, and that's why I have sort of the second turn track off to the left of the screen.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
And so that was just sort of a little reminder for me to let me know that, okay, I've used 1, I got 2 left. And just to remind everybody, that's what it looks like, with the little blue scattergram over there to the far right of the screen.
So in your defensive fire phase, you could just say, hey, I'm going to call down I3, and you roll 2 dice. And if it's a 1 through 4, it'll land there, or it'll land. What happens if you roll a 5 on the colored die? What happens then?
Then you go to the second die, and then you use exactly what you've got here. And that's a great visual aid. Thank you so much for that, Stu. You basically, if it's a 1, it's, you go straight north, into, like, let's use I3, you basically just use a scattergram, just the center of the barrage moves off 1 hex.
Okay.
So that means that if I rolled a 3, it was going to be moving, the entire barrage would be moving 1 hex at the 4 o'clock position. If I rolled a 6, it'd be.
So it's not going to be way off.
No, it's not. And so the great thing about it is that your target hex is always going to be covered.
Right. It's going to drift 1 hex, I think, is what the deal is. Yeah. Okay.
Drift 1 hex. And crazy thing about it is that in the first and the third fire missions, I think I caught over 80% of his force in both of them.
That's crazy.
And the second one, next time you play Steinberg, you need to pull that out on him, because that will cure him from stacking forever. When you see what happens, in turn 4.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get to that for sure. So yeah, it seems like the starter kit pretty much just eliminates, like you say, all the dice rolling for contact, for drawing, for artillery. Pretty much says you roll 2 dice, it either lands there or drifts 1 hex and blows everything up too as well. So which, with pre-reg, that's where the 1 through 4 comes involved. I'm not going to get involved in the differences between nationalities, but pre-regs in ASL makes it really easy to drop it right where you want it to, for the most part. So that's pretty much what the 1 through 4 represents. Otherwise, it's just going to drift 1 hex, which is still not too bad, especially given in this situation where John's got like I3, it's all around buildings. So most, you think the Americans are going to be all around in those buildings, so he's going to have a good chance to nail a couple of those guys, unless he rolls kind of poorly. So, yeah, very, very simplified, because they've got a flow chart on calling down OBA and ASL, and it's like 2 pages long. I got the rat charts the other day. You're right. It's sort of like Fortran. It kind of doesn't really need to be that one, but it's useful to have, like, if you don't play with a lot of artillery. It's still another useful tool. So very nice. So so no one's taken any casualties. So you have
this is the very first
right.
This is the very first. You see where the final fire marker is here at L7, L8, L7.
L7, yeah.
Right there. And that's what, according to the special scenario rules, that's what you're supposed to put, to indicate this is where your artillery barrage is going to land.
Oh, okay.
And so we went through the whole thing. And so what picks up next was, as soon as I did that, I went, oh shit, Stu's going to kill me, and then I started the log file. And so this is where the action picks up. And so the next thing, you should see him start to do the die rolls for the
for the attack. Yeah. So he has 3, 4, 5, 6. He has 6.5 squads, 1 demo, and a medium. Is that right?
Yes.
That's all he's got, and you have
I have three 5.48s, one 4.47, one 2.38 half squad,
yeah.
and 3 leaders, 2 light machine guns, and 1 MMG.
Right. Okay. Wow. That's a very small amount of force.
Small compact force.
Yeah. Usually in
Well-
scenarios with the OBA, and this is a big. You could read threads back from 1985, well, before the internet was even created, about how OBA essentially dictates the game. In this game, they've obviously simplified it, but John will get his offboard artillery here because you have to do a lot more in ASL. There's chances you won't get any offboard artillery, and so a lot of players have complained about that literally for decades.
Radio doesn't come into play here, does it?
No, not at all.
No, not at all. And you're not drawing chits. You don't have to worry about, is it red? Is it black? You know,
Right.
I mean,
Almost like pre-registered bombardment.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
in the historical notes, they said, if you remember Band of Brothers, I think about the second episode after they land in Normandy.
Episode 3.
This is clearing Carentan.
Right.
And so they said that most of the German rear guard had pulled out. There's a few Fallschirmjägers left. And they said, they pre-registered a lot of the buildings. And so this is essentially what they're trying to
Recreate. Yep.
within the confines, of the rather limited SK1 rule set.
Right. The
There's
Americans,
a lot of fun.
the Americans came on, or did they set up north of that green line?
They set up north of the green line. They didn't have to enter the board. So the rules were, and we sort of had a stutter step here. The way I read the special scenario rules, they said you can have 2 MMCs stacked HIP before the start of the game. And the way the sentence was wording, I thought I could have no more than 2 MMCs stacked together with support weapons and leaders, but the entire force was hidden in place. That wasn't the case. It was just 2 squads that could be hidden in place.
Right.
And so we started off the game where basically he had no idea where I was on the board. And
Oh, right.
and so this was sort of this was plan B. And sort of no plan survives first contact with the enemy, but for what I had wanted to do, this literally could not have gone any better for me. Both from the attacking axes and the die rolls, and in a little while you see Keith. He does a contested street crossing here, and he's usually a pretty regular listener to Tactical Tuesdays, and he used every trick in the book. I mean, he was doing sequential movement across, used smoke, used covering fire. He got his entire force across the street into those buildings in the face of 3 squads defending against them. I really didn't have any clear shots. And that last artillery strike comes in, takes out 80% of his force.
All right. I'm not sure if he's played with the artillery before, but so taking into consideration those guys, the SS guys aren't in view of the American player, so the American player only sees the blue units. And so talk to us about your particular setup here. Obviously, you don't want to put guys near your AR, and you have the 1 unit in between, the 238 in the back. Is he just to stop just a little minor end around going on there, or?
That was essentially bait. That was just to he knows I've got 2 squads and conceivably 2 machine guns hidden, which is exactly what turned out to be the case. And I just wanted to let him know that on either side of the victory hex, I had something out there dangling. I didn't know which way he was going to come on,
right?
Because it was the Germans set up first and the paratroopers move first. So it was basically just to give him, just drop a line in the water and see what bites. I was hoping that I looked at the map, and over on the left side, I saw a lot more buildings and a lot less open ground, and I kind of figured that he would be trying to come through that particular area. And so I picked one of my pre-registered sites over on the left-hand side, L7, and I knew he was going to have to get down into the south center part of the board, and that's why I picked I3. Now, once I picked I3, I figured, that's going to have, I3 itself is a victory hex. 4 of the hexes around it are victory hexes. And I wanted to make sure that I didn't have too much of my force, stacked right next to that. No more than, I want to make sure it was at least 2 hexes away from it, at least on the initial setup, because if that thing's drifted any, well, I was going to 16 fire from on high, myself.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. So yeah, I that's kind of crazy setup of the scenario. I think the choices for your ARs are pretty good. Obviously, initially, maybe the American thought. Obviously, the quickest way is on the right-hand side because he could literally just get in all the stone buildings and get right up in your face, which a possibility. But if that's not too obvious, then that's where you're going to put your FFEs, right? You put your AR, G7, and G6, and he's just.
Well, in the initial thing, that's exactly where it was. You had a couple of them, about one there about D7, and then the other one was always at I3 because I figured he's eventually going to have to get down there, and I'm just going to leave that part of the suburbs alone. And the stack up there at J5, I was hoping against hope that I was going to get him engaged in that, do 2 things. Number one, sort of slow him down, and essentially that's my weakest leader with my weakest full squad and an LMG. But I was basically going to try to do 2 things with that, slow him down a little bit and also try to pull him in to essentially the west end suburbs, where my last artillery strike was. And that's exactly what happened. But sort of giving away the ending there.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I was kind of looking at there. It's like, hey, that guy's just dead. But if you're going to use him if he should happen to come that way, he's pretty much safe from the guys. If he were to set up an E8, F8, and wants to approach these buildings here in the center, I mean, he's not really going to get fired upon, and he can he's still doing the same thing, covering the roads. And so I kind of like that. And you could also jump to I5 and go backwards across the street. It's probably what you did anyway. But I think the Americans at this point, they really don't have a lot of units to go by. But because if they get crunched pretty hard. So
I knew where they were going to have to go, and I knew that it was, it's all a time thing. You just have to slow them down enough, to make sure that you got 1 unit in a building somewhere in those 13 buildings, at the end of the game. And it's not like where the Yanks get the last move. It's 6 full turns. You've seen a lot of games, where the attacker gets the last.
So the Germans get the last move on this one.
Yes, they do.
Wow.
So you've got the advanced phase where he could basically creep back into, take your pick, any one of those things.
Okay. So, now when it says HIP, because HIP's not really in starter kit, where does it say that you could set up HIP?
It was It was the second special rule.
No. I mean, in terms of on the map, where can you physically put a unit HIP on the map? Does it specify building?
That's the only thing it's specified. You can put it in any building.
Okay. Because because in ASL you can put it in concealment terrain, and J6 orchards are concealment terrain, and that's that. Wow, for you to move last.
I'm going to Grandma's. I'll be back in a little bit.
All right, we'll do.
Yeah, and when we got done with this, particularly after looking at how well Keith had played, particularly with that street crossing, I was thinking I'll have, your mileage may vary, but I was thinking it might be, need a little bit of balance towards the Americans but he had the great misfortune of walking into two of my artillery barrages.
Right.
And, well, actually, he hit all three of them. He hit both of my pre-registered hexes. And so if the American comes in and doesn't hit any of them or just one, it's a lot less impact on his game plan.
Right. Especially since he's going to be in still buildings. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But
even with a 16+3, that rattles your cage a little bit.
Yep.
And but by the end of, even though he had, step through the thing here a little bit. And
yeah, sure. Go ahead and step through. Go ahead and step through, John.
Okay. What you're going to start seeing now is, where are you going to start seeing? Can I do that? Steve, you might have to hit page down because I think I'm saying to you.
I'm in control. Okay, my bad. Okay, so you just call my break here. So this is your 16 firepower. I guess you got a morale check on him or something. Oh wow.
Yeah.
You must have rolled well.
It starts getting ugly early.
Did you roll really low on the attack?
What did I roll?
You must have rolled like a 4 because the guy rolls a 6 on his morale check and he breaks, and they have 7 morale. So you must have rolled like a 4, a 2 morale check or something.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Like that.
Wow, that's just crazy.
See, and since you have all 7 of those hexes being impacted, the only thing that was outside of that artillery barrage was one squad he had that was furthest south, which was CX in the building.
Wow.
And I hit everything else. So.
Okay, so that bears to wow, and then he advanced fires, of course, advanced phase.
But basically, with that one barrage, I broke. What did I break? I broke 2 leaders and 4 squads.
Wow! So everything he had. Wow.
80% of his force. He had 1 half squad and 1 full squad that was essentially untouched. His 10-2 is still around, and there's 1 squad in the middle stack that didn't get hit. But yeah, he's so basically, over 3/4 of his force is out of the game for at least 1 turn.
All right. Okay. Now
this is where we had a little bit of a conversation.
Okay.
Originally, he was going to, he heard your conversations earlier, in the month about don't route too far away from your victory condition because eventually you're going to get back in the game and you want to have your force closer. And I said, Keith, understand how this artillery barrage works.
Right.
Because if you route to M8, I'm going to call it in again on that very same spot, and I've got a pretty good chance, probably a 60% chance of hitting M8, if he's there again.
Right.
And he said, I see your point. And so that's why he took him on back to M9 in that building.
Oh, so okay. So another thing with the artillery, all it does is it's a one-time shot, and there's no, quote, residual effect of the artillery. There's just a one-time shot.
That's correct.
Okay.
It lands. There's no residual, and so it just sort of like it lands. It all goes off at the same time, and nothing after that.
Okay. Yeah. This is not the effect. Is ASL. The rule is 100% starter kit. The rules are completely different between the two. It just represents what's the effect, which I don't mind at all because it keeps it simple, and that's the way it is. It's just, it makes it easier to play the game. You don't have to be caught up in a bunch of rules or stuff like that. But yeah, you make the good point that he needs to get the hell out of the area.
This was a bonus pack for starter kit 1. And so, I mean, we're talking about people, who have finally tired of the 6 scenarios inside the first box.
That's right. That's right.
So there's, they're just basically learning the 8 phases at this point.
Right, that's true, because the other kits hadn't been out that time. Yeah, and the expansion pack 1, supposedly going to reprint it, so I would definitely wait for reprint it, otherwise it's extremely expensive. So that's just my opinion.
Well, actually, it's not okay. Small point in terminology. I saw where they are going to be reprinting the expansion pack. They're calling it a reimagined expansion pack, if you can believe what Barry Koch said about it on online.
Okay.
And it's going to be sort of along the lines of what they did with the expansion pack 2. This is the Starter Kit 1 bonus pack.
Oh, that's right, the bonus pack. Yeah. It had how many? 3 scenarios in it?
The original edition had 3 scenarios in it, 41, 42, and 43.
Wow.
And then when they reissued it a few years back, I think they added 64 or something like that. But the title of the scenario is called Mopping Up.
Okay. Very interesting. Very interesting on this one here. So yeah, you're absolutely right in that he needs to get out of the area.
Yeah.
And so yeah, he could do that. That's about the only place. Wow, that and plus the woods in the back. It's about as far as he can get back. But yeah, you hit him super early and everything. So that's kind of. And
again, it was just luck of the draw. I mean, I anticipate, this is probably one of the. Probably one of the 3 major ways he's going to come at me.
Right. Now, did he set up an M8, L8? All of his units right there? Did he just assault move, advance phase them up there, or assault move them up there?
Long story short, yes. I mean, it was. I didn't take any shots, but I saw him stacking up all that stuff over there, and so I said, thinking to myself, never interrupt your enemy when he's executing your game plan.
Right.
And so he basically stacked up in that building, which is where I thought would probably be a base of operations before he took off. That's why I picked it as one of my artillery barrage locations.
Right.
And I said, we'll just see what happens. And he stacked up everybody in there.
And I'm sorry, the German setup area is where? Just south of the Green Line?
That's it. Yeah. It's just
wow.
Yanks on one side, Germans on the other. So I literally could have been in any of those.
You could have been in any of the other buildings, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, it looks like he CX'd 1 unit there, 246 there to just kind of scout it out. Yeah. I mean, obviously he doesn't know where the ARs are, so you can't really fault him. But he just doesn't. And he just happened to stop.
But I say he's stacking. That's how it wound up. He never moved anything as a stack. It was always sequential, put 1 in, 2 in, 3 in. And so it was those lessons he's learned and he was applying. I mean, his advance was really good. And in a little while, you're going to see him do that contested street crossing.
Right.
And it is textbook. I mean, it is really, really good.
Right.
And then the wheels come off.
Yeah. Or just caught it right there. Yeah. And so, God, he has to get all of the victory buildings, right? And you have last turn.
Yes.
Good Lord. That's just kind of crazy.
He picked the scenario. I wanted to play one of the 3 scenarios out of the Beyond the Beaches, and I sent him the scenario cards, and this is the one he chose.
Okay. Let's continue.
If anybody has a sense of deja vu, this is the exact same map for War of the Rats.
Yeah, exactly. So here's where you're talking about the explosion. So he needs to route back, and his guys kind of move around the area, which is fine. And you could call all 3 of your missions down this one pre-registered hex, right? If you wanted to.
That is correct.
Okay, so you had your pick of the litter.
And the crazy thing about it is that between final fire portion of the defensive fire phase, it could get hit again on my phase, and so we're he's going to be that far gone. So
okay. Now just going if you go, let's well, I hope they won't screw up the log here. So you talk about him routing. So these units here were in this location there.
Yes.
And this actually came up in his game, and it actually came up with the 10-2 leader. He got blasted with the AR right here, right? God, I wish Keith were here. I'm wondering. Obviously,
I actually thought we talked about that a good bit. I was hoping he was going to be able to join us tonight as well. But
why didn't he route to M6 or M5? Was he afraid of enemies being there?
Well, again, I had the option of having two HIP squads somewhere.
Right.
And so, at this point, he's not taking any small arms fire at all. The only thing that has hit him has been artillery.
Right.
And the thing you can see is that one guy across the orchard in the building.
Right. Obviously, we know where your HIP guys are.
Sure.
But if you have a unit here, to me, he's doing exactly what you're thinking about doing, is just delaying him and possibly covering, like, a couple of road spots, or the road down here in case he wants to come the back way, or whatever, just so all your guys aren't clumped up, because this set of buildings over here really doesn't give you a lot of fire attacks if you get flanked. You're kind of screwed if you get flanked, and that's what he was trying to do, which is good, because he doesn't know where the hidden guys are.
Hang on just for 1 second. I left out one thing.
Okay.
From his order of battle, and I apologize for not posting the scenario card. But one of these squads does have a demolition charge with him.
Oh yeah, I see. Yeah, I see. It's up on the top.
So, yeah.
Yeah, but in this situation, say these are the hidden units. So this is what he sees on the map right there. This is either OBA, or you have hidden guys in this area. At least one hidden guy in the area. You either have an OBA stack or hidden guy. So he probably chose OBA, and then the same sort of thing. The same sort of thing here. I wouldn't presume there would be a lot of Germans across the road, simply because you are outnumbered 2-1, and therefore anybody that breaks over there is going to be slow. The 8-bar unit's not that big a deal, because you could just route across the road rolling an 8 or 7. It's not too bad, but it's a risk that you might not want to take since you have almost no units. The 238 down here is, obviously covers the open ground area on this side. I would presume either a HIP unit over here, or a HIP unit here, or maybe one down here, and possibly over here. But I would presume to put all the HIP units on the opposite side of the road. So he's being cautious, not a big deal. But because you route independently, right? You probably route one unit at a time, not stacks. So it's easy just to route the whole stack, which is fine. What my question is you just took a giant hit, right? He just got walloped, and he needs these guys up as fast as possible. So what I would do is, obviously, get them the hell out of the AR. Route one guy up to here. Hell, since he wanted to route this guy here, route him to M6 like he did. Route him there first, and then if he was clear, or actually have him go M6, M5 to be a scout, because you could technically scout that out. And then if it's clear, then I would presume to route everybody in in the L7 building to M6.
Yeah.
Why would I want to route that whole stack to M6 in the route phase?
Well, he winds up doing an end around once this force is reconstituted.
Yeah, but that's the question.
Over on this side, and he winds up bringing it into action down here. This.
But the route phase, instead of routing back M8 to M9, because you guys had a discussion on that. And again, I'm going to presume that he's thinking that there might be some bad guys here, right? I mean, that's a presumption that you can have. You want to be cautious, because
I got to believe, that's probably his overarching thing, because he's probably maybe about 2 or 3 months behind me as far as actually playing face-to-face games.
Yeah, no, not a problem, not a problem.
But
But here you
if
could use.
you've ever been in a minefield, if you're walking through a minefield, if you haven't stepped on one yet, if you need to get out of it, you know the best way to get out of it is to retrace your steps the way you came in.
Right, absolutely.
And so,
absolutely.
and that's where he's going. That's where he's going. So
right.
I'm trying to put thoughts in another guy's mind, but I think that's probably
No, I have no problem. I have no problem with that. But knowing that there are hidden guys somewhere, and knowing that you just got walloped big time, you can actually because this unit made it here, which is actually really good because he kind of cleared that whole half that building out. There's only one hex of that building you don't know, and this guy over here. What you could do is you can route one guy forward. Again, taking the presumption that you've got this guy here, and that this OBA is right here as well, right? So since you have that and this, in my idea, it's unlikely that you would also put one more facet of your sort of like ace up the sleeve in the same area. Again, I would presume them to be over here, or down here to cover those like avenues of approach. Putting a HIP unit over here would mean one of these other areas is a lot weaker, and you essentially at that point you would put all your eggs in one basket, where you have the delaying force here, and then your OBA, which is exactly what happened. You kind of got that one, which is really cool, and then putting a HIP unit here would be redundant. It wouldn't be necessary to put a HIP unit there. So my idea is test you. I would test you, and route forward here, which is what he did. He routed to M6, and I'm not sure if he routed to M5. Route the guy forward. If nobody's there, then you route most of this stack there as well. Why would you want to route the stack into M6? Why would you want to route?
Next time I play him, I'll ask.
Okay. Now, why would you, as a player, want to route units? These units, most of those units back here. Obviously, you want to get 2 hexes away from the AR. That's priority, right? We want to get the hell out. So that leaves L8's out, M8's out. This is a good spot. Even back there is better. But over here, I'm not sure if he has LOS to this guy. Yeah, the LJ8 might actually still be viable. It's kind of off the path that he want to take, so I don't have a problem going here. But what about moving those guys up into M6 to give you essentially that's a full movement that's a full movement option into M6 or even M5. M5 would be a risk because if you've got those hidden guys over here, you're just going to DM them again. So M5 would be really stretching it, in my opinion.
It puts them closer to the victory hexes.
And what else does it put him closer to? Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. You're routing forward, and you see one guy that can't shoot him because the building's in the way. L5's in the way, right? So this is a safe, quote, safe spot to be. You're still in proximity to the AR, which would mean you might want to go to M5, but that's a decision that you would have to make. What else is important about M6 in relation to proximity of other units?
Oh, number one, he's right next door to the 10-2.
The 10-2. So what's he going to do in the advance phase?
He's going to jump right on top of those guys and say, hey, guys, enemies over there, get your shit together and let's get it going. Right.
What's he going to need to rally?
Yeah, he's just going to go put the boot in him.
Yeah, what's he going to need to rally those 3 DM 8 morale units?
7.
A 7. Yeah. A 7. 3 7s. Wham, wham, wham. If this leader doesn't rally up here in the American or in the German player turn, which he needs a 5, these units can't do anything. If this 10-2 is available to rally those units, he's going to rally 1.5 of them, pretty much. Yeah. He's going to rally 1, 2. He's going to get one of them. If you don't roll any of them, then you're just kind of stuck anyway. But right now, as the American player, when I see this, and I got a 10-2, maybe he wanted to round him back to make sure that you didn't counterattack him. But I don't think that would actually be an option because this pin's going to be gone and this guy's going to be here. And you got a 10-2 in the vicinity. Yeah, they may seem weak, but they're not. I mean, you've got 12 firepower adjacent, and for you to get in there to really harass him, I wouldn't consider that an option, considering you have artillery request, because you don't want to get close to your AR because it may fall on you as well. And so one broken German is equivalent to 2 broken American units.
Right.
You know? So that's
apparently it didn't bother him too terribly much, because he took his 10-2 and he put him exactly, where the uh,
yeah.
So he did that. I think that was primarily he was looking to form a fire group or maintain some level of pressure against the stack that I've got over here.
Right.
And he does have a leader back there, at M9, with 9 morale, and
right.
So that's, he's going to need a 500 DM. But just to skip forward maybe a chapter or two, by the end of, even though I call in another artillery strike on the very next turn, I think the very next phase,
Right.
By turn 3, he's got his entire force reconstituted, and they're moving south.
Right.
And they're getting aggressive. So it cost him probably, I don't know, turn and a half, something like that,
right.
of forward movement. But for taking a punch like that,
that's huge.
He had not seen before.
That's huge.
He reconstituted and put together a really brilliant street crossing down there. So
maybe he moved it back. Oh, it looks like he moved his pin unit over there as well for some reason.
Yeah.
I think there should be a 747 in the 10-2. I just deleted the pin unit, but that's just an easy error. No, he probably just selected the whole stack and moved it over. He may not even thought that he was broken, to be honest. So
apparently neither one of us caught it. So
yeah, it's not a big deal. Like I said, that's not a big deal. I just have to say what? Oh, okay. When he routes here, and the DM comes off, right? So he starts rallying. Actually, his leader on the bottom comes up.
Yeah.
And the other unit doesn't, and then his top unit doesn't either. So when this is the case here, what are you going to do? What do you do with this unit, John? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
First thing that comes to mind was that, okay, now that I know the axes of advance, I want to basically try to lure him in to the far western area of the victory condition area.
Okay.
Area down here. And so and that's totally deliberate. I realize this is sort of a sacrificial lamb, and so I'm already thinking about maybe taking 1 or 2 pot shots and then getting back across the street safely and getting down here to the far western edge as far as I can.
All
Hopefully,
right.
My thought was he would be bringing the majority of his force down here, and attack up that way. And then as he did, that's where my third and final artillery strike would come in.
Right. So I don't mind him putting his 10-2 here right next to the AR, because if you drop another artillery request on him, most likely it's going to land. He's got 10 morale and -2 leadership modifier, so your average roll is going to yield a no morale check or a 1 morale check. He should be able to fluff that off pretty easily.
That is exactly what happened.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I think the next couple of phases you'll see that come to pass.
Yeah, I would definitely. This is. I mean, everyone might be thinking, "Oh my gosh, he left him in the FFE when John was saying you need to get the hell out of the FFE." Well, in this case, it's you're not going to really affect the 10-2, just like it didn't affect him over here.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10. I mean, that's why the strength of the 10-2 leader is what it is. Now, what? Okay, we'll just go. So this is the rally phase. So he fails to rally anyone but this one leader.
Yeah.
And
okay. That was that was the artillery. 4 means it hits the.
Oh right.
It hits the.
And 5 is your dice roll. Wow.
Hex, and then 5, 3 for the buildings. So that's an 8 on the 16 chart.
Which is the one morale check, yeah.
Yeah.
And then he unfortunately the second unit breaks, I think.
Yeah.
It happens, What the heck?
Yeah.
Why is it going down? It should be going down. No big deal. So now, before we get to that point, what are you thinking about this unit right here?
Again, he's pretty much done what he needs to, and I'm going to get him across the street and get him to try to lure the rest of the Yanks into the western edge of the victory condition area.
Okay. He's got a broken half squad here, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's got a broken squad here, and he's got 2 squads that are active here. Is he going to cross next turn?
No, absolutely not.
Right. He's in a teeter-totter position. If you had units in position, the game would almost be over at this point. But what do you have in position right now? What do you see? Tell me what you see from J5 that you can do. I mean, I know you had the ideas to come back. You might pot shot a guy a couple here. What do you see from J5? You didn't plan this, mind you. You didn't plan this, but when opportunities present themselves, you need to take advantage of them. What huge advantage do you see from J5? Anybody can chime in on this. This is what I look at every single time this happens. What do you see from J5? Does anybody see? Oops, sorry. Let me undo it.
Just to let everybody know that where the 7-0 stack is right now, that is a victory hex.
Yes.
So one of the 13 victory condition buildings. So
what does
J5 probably, can J5 hit W9?
W, you mean M9?
Yeah, I'm sorry, M9. Yeah, sorry, looking at the board's upside down.
Oh yeah.
Take a look at that. What do you think?
Yeah, so you can DM them again.
Right. Anytime I see broken units on the board, especially a giant stack that's going to rally next turn, I'm going to try to get a shot on it. Can a 6+, what's that shot going to be?
that's going to be a 6+4, no cower. So yeah, it
No,
would.
it's not. It's a 4 because that's just outside of his normal range.
1, 2.
You got the 447 there.
You're right. You're right.
Right.
So it 4 up 4,
okay.
which I don't think is enough. But he doesn't cower.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you can roll a 2 and get a normal morale check.
Right, so that's just barely enough. I mean, that is the scratch bare minimum that we have to DM those guys. If the leader wasn't there, we couldn't DM him. Well, if the leader doesn't direct the fire, let's say, because those guys could fire, the leader could run away. He can't direct the fire and run away. So that is an opportunity that could have been taken. That's fine not to see it. It's fine. First of all, the LOS is, you'd have to take a look at that, and it's
that I didn't see, and quite honestly,
no, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
I do take one of those shots to DM a group later on, because it was sort of end game at that point. But I didn't even see that one. You guys talk amongst yourselves just for a second. I need to take a quick bio break. I'll be right back.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, for the rest of the gentlemen, John doesn't want to fire this guy because he didn't look at that opportunity to fire him. What else could he do to do the exact same thing? Remember, this is like a delaying force. He could pull him back. His leadership is pretty strong. He pretty much has 1 leader per unit, for all intents and purposes. Okay, he has 1 leader per unit. What else can he do with these units to mess with the Americans? Obviously, he can't He's not going to assault them in these buildings. It's just going to happen. These 747s are pretty strong. You're really not going to get. He's not going to go to K6 because this guy's got to shoot him for 12 +1 if he assault moves there. So
what's in that stack, Stu, at J5?
At J5,
the 7-0 stack.
It's a 7-0 LMG and 447.
Okay.
You can double click on your map bolt, and it should pop it open for you.
Oh, okay. I haven't used Vassal, but maybe 3 or 4 times.
Oh, okay,
and
yeah,
I thought,
yeah. That's why I have everyone come pop so they could do the double stack, because on my screen all the stacks are open, so I could see all the units.
okay, so you won't see that when I do it.
Not at all. Only if you move them or rearrange them in a thing. Yeah, absolutely. But if you do that when someone else is playing the game and they happen to move that stack, you're going to screw things up.
Okay.
So a lot of times if you want to open up a stack, just put your counter over it, and it will put your cursor, your mouse key thing over it, and it will show you the terrain and all the units in it. That's a really nice feature. So you just have to have a delay on it. So instead of firing, let's say you didn't want to fire those units. Let's say that LOS is blocked for all intents and purposes, because it's close. I mean, you could reasonably argue that that's a close LOS. I mean, it's like, it'll hit right here in the middle, but you know, it still might be close. I'm not going to risk it. What else could he do, given the situation that his OBA just blasted that unit, the MMG here? What else could he do to screw with these units? Remember, that's half of his force. This is 50% of the American force is out. If it's down, you want to kick it. So how could he kick that stack of units?
Certainly, I mean, well, I mean,
Could he get there? Could he move a unit there?
Yeah, I mean, you could get to L8. You know, 1, 2, 3, 5. So you know, but you are going to face some fire from the 747.
Okay, this guy here, right? He's kind of exhausted. So
yeah,
you don't really want to go to K8, right? Because that's going to be an open shot.
Right.
That's only a CX is much. So that's about, and it's a normal range. The 447, you probably he wants to pull him across the street, which is absolutely 100% fine because he has actually no units anyway. But what about the 7-0? What can he do just with the 7-0?
Oh, you want to? Oh, no, I don't know.
Well, Stu, he could take that 7-0 and run straight up the street there and around behind that building to L9.
That's right. Right. He could take the 7-0 and he could CX him. 1, 2. We've got the hindrance, right? 3, 4. Now that's out of range of this, and that's through 2 hindrances. So that will be a 2+2 shot. 5, 6, 7. And then DM all these units here. Now, would he want to do that? He could potentially route forward, which might be a concern again, or he might route backwards. That's I would love to see him get to L8, because if I'm here, I would simply, you have no other choice, you know, but you have to route him forward at that point, because if you route him backwards, this unit just chases you. Yeah, and so that would be detrimental. So L8 would be a key play to get into. Would you want to risk taking that shot? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's it might be worthwhile to slow that unit down, because who's going to react to him? He's got 2 good order units, and I mean, this is pretty dangerous situation here. And this is kind of, again, just in kind of reflecting back. I'm not saying Keith did anything wrong in his movement, but because he moved his leader up here with a medium machine gun, he was covering that advance, that sort of opportunity that Germany has. I have no problem with that. He just happened to break, but with that breaking happening, you know, obviously you don't count on that. And this unit being CX, then you can. You're in a world of hurt. You're in a very dangerous situation here, where again, if there's a hidden unit here, I would probably move this unit here to bait this shot, and then move the hidden unit here to get up next to this guy and DM him, and then pretty much it's game over at that point, you know. But yeah, I would look. Would I risk moving him over here? Man, if that was an 8 morale leader, I'd do that all day. A 7 morale leader. He probably won't be able to survive that 6-1 shot. To be honest with you, he probably won't.
Yeah, and with the Germans having so few units too, I think I'd be more want to maybe leave him there because he's in a good speed bump place in J5.
Right. Yep. Yeah. And like you say, he tends to move the guy across the street, which is 100% fine. Again, to slow him down even more, kind of bait him over in that direction. But when, like I said, when I see something like this, if that was his initial plan, sometimes especially when you see broken, again, this guy, if he's here, he won't be able to route back. Like if you're in L8, he won't be able to route up away from you. He still has to route down or stay there. And if
let me ask you this, Stu. Do you think that if I'm playing the Germans here, I'm probably opting to leave those guys in J5 because he has to deal with them at some point.
Yeah.
Because he can't he can't hook around to the top and cross the open there, and he certainly can't hook south and cross the open. So he's got to deal with those guys at some point.
Right.
So they're buying time either way.
Correct.
Right. So do you think leaving them in J5 is a good move or pulling them back?
Let's see if John moves him. Let's see where he does in the movement phase. Let's see what he thinks of this.
Because that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at how would I play this?
Right. In this turn, that guy is CX right there. Like you said, I mean, you've got LOS to L3 and M3, and but you have to take into consideration when this guy's CX is gone, he's dropping smoke and he's moving in front of your face with impunity, and that's the danger with American units. If this were a German 467 or 467, and the roles were reversed, where you have, he's got good strong strength. If anybody moves into K5, he's going to take a 12+3 shot. It's an okay shot. Yeah, it could slow him up.
That's survivable, though.
Yeah, it's very, very survivable. And actually, they could kind of bypass this guy, as John was pointing out. If this 747 wants, because he's going to rally and all these guys are going to rally. So he could move here with almost impunity, assuming no one's going, that he doesn't think that he's going to take a shot. And then drop smoke here, and then this guy can just do an end around, like John says. And when these units rally up on top, they can do an end around back on that same road. He can go one.
Yeah. I like sitting there and DMing that stack in M9 again, because geometry of ASL tells me that's a clean shot.
Yeah, and I'm sure John was just concerned about getting those guys across, and which is fine, but. Yeah, anytime. This is just one of the.
That was my overarching concern. You're exactly right.
Yeah.
So, and I understand where you're coming from on trying to get the guy up there to
DM again.
The stack, but I'll be flat honest with you that in the time we were actually playing live, with each other over Vassal, that never really crossed my mind.
Plus, it's not in John's plan. His plan is to slow him up.
Yeah.
Smack him with the FFE, which he did. His plan was complete. Now it's going to the second plan. I'm going to pull him back and do the same thing across the road. So, but this is just an opportunity. Again, he's fulfilling his plan, which is 100% correct. You want to go with your plan, but when situations like this, sweet situations like this, show up, you want to make sure that would this be better or worse? And that all depends on what you want to do. If he doesn't care, if he thinks that's enough to slow him down, which it very well might. I mean, because if he just moves forward up, creeps up again, he's just going to drop another artillery request on him. So, these guys are still going to be slowed up. I think he did what he wanted to do with these units: is blast them, slow them. Now the Americans have to delay, which is fine. But yeah, I usually, anytime, especially if you see a stack of units, anytime I see a stack of units, I want to say, okay, how can I keep them DM, and will it screw me? And as we kind of looked at, the 7-0 really can't get back. He could get back to L9, but these units would then route forward, and then they could actually route forward to M7 or M6, and then the 10-2 could route on top of that stack. And he definitely doesn't want that to happen. So he's either an L8 or not even trying it. And
you're going to see some elements of everything you've just talked past 5.
yeah,
You know?
absolutely. So we're going to continue with your movement since you're back, John. So you that unit should probably not have an LOS. That's pretty close, but it just clips that building. Just
clips it. So it was, but as we've discussed in past episodes, the starter kit boards are quite porous, and so I knew that was sort of it was a calculated risk.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I thought I had a pretty clear route, and then just see where I end up. Just one quick programming note. If you're listening to this, you're already on the ASL Skills server, and you're in one of the text channels, the Tactical Tuesday voice channel. If you scroll on down on your Discord menu down to the Tactical Tuesday comments,
right,
I have posted the scenario card for clearing Carrington.
Oh,
if
nice.
Anybody wants to take a look at the special scenario rules. Now, given as I've just violated Brian and Perry's copyrights on that, if you could just read it, don't tell me if you downloaded it or not, but I'll leave it up there for the length of the session here, and then it's probably
it's an educational session. You're sharing the information with us, and then
is that what those Black Hawk helicopters in the distance are?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, being former Air Force, I prefer B-52s. It sort of takes out the entire grid square. So.
Okay.
T and J, yeah, that's a lot.
Off your defense budget this year. Okay, all right.
Wow. Oh, there's 2 238s. Did you miss a 238, John?
I'm sorry, what?
There are 2 238s in your OB.
There.
You must have left one off, but it's okay.
I did.
Was this a pre-made one, or did you guys load up the game? Did you just create the game?
This is any errors are totally mine. I prepared the board, and I was no worries. I'm still learning Vassal at the same time.
That just happens.
Trying to learn ASL, and so it's kind of fun. But it's just my own fault.
It's normal. It's normal. 2 238. I think the 2 238s are supposed to be doing exactly what you're doing, is just kind of covering the flanks with a little 2-2 shot here and there, just to keep them honest. Or what you can cover some. We'll cover that later. But you're moving around. Absolutely not a problem with the shot. If you break, what happens?
He goes to exactly where I want him to go anyhow.
Exactly. So is he gonna be threatened by these units in his turn? Probably
nope.
Not. Probably not. So even if you do break, you just don't want to die. And with the CX, makes it less likely that you are going to die. Yeah, it's a close shot for sure. I mean, it's a close one, but you survive it. And Keith has no other shot at that point. It's not like you're assaulting him. So I mean, that's a no-brainer. He has to take that shot, whether it's close or whatever. So so you make it there. Oh, you're really baiting him. This is terrible.
Yeah.
And your 548 moves up as well. You're just adjusting over.
And as you can see, where Stu has the SS unit, there is a HIP light machine gun and 548 there.
Yeah.
In E5 as well.
Right.
And so he's got to get across that street. And I think I'm sitting pretty good. I'm thinking the 7-0 stack, as I've already said, that's gonna die because I want to pull the Yanks into that end of the victory condition area. The 548, I should be able to get him out of the way of the last fire mission I have before that hits, and we'll see what happens. And the tractor works I have sort of set up as my Alamo. I've got a heavy machine gun in there, my 8.1 liter. Wow. And so anybody gets next to him, he's going to be catching probably a 20, maybe a 24, first fire shot.
Yeah, this scenario looks really rough on the Americans. I mean, not just because he's broken, even if he didn't break. I'm one to do a dual pronged attack. but I'm not sure if the Americans can afford that, considering you have OBA and you have hidden units. I don't know that you can actually split the Americans up in this one. I just don't see it happening, because I look at this. Let's say he assaults you over here, and he breaks you. Where are you going when you're broken?
Yeah.
You know, because he gets up in this K5, this road, or across the street. He breaks you. Where are you gonna go? You're gonna route back to your Alamo. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, and you're just gonna rally later, and it's just you're essentially going to be fighting 4 German squads in this building at the game end, and you may not even have 4 American squads left over. So it looks pretty rough.
You have understood my game plan, sir. Thank you.
It looks pretty rough. I mean, I looked at the balance on this one. I might just throw the American balance just right now. Again, notwithstanding the Americans already breaking, I might just throw the 337 and demo charge on there. Because although the Americans have the strength of the smoke-making ability, how many times do they actually need that? They only need to move across this road here once. Once they get into the building, it's just a building fight. You know, they might throw another smoke here to do an end around, but which would probably actually have to happen. But you get this little Peasley 238 that's gonna be a pain in the ass.
The end around does happen, but it's not the way you think.
Yeah.
That kind of hurt right there. That one morale check where he had casually reduced one of his squads. So.
Oh yeah, and he rolls 11, he rolls a 12.
Yeah.
9, 8. That's kind of sucks.
His morale checks were absolutely horrible. I think for the game, his average was a 9.
Yeah, that guy comes up. So he moves 1, 2, 3, 4.
So the next 2 turns are basically, he gets his force reconstituted. There's no more artillery, and for all intents and purposes, I skulk across the road to get out of the way of his defensive fire. And then things don't really start getting interesting again until turn 3, turn 4.
Right. Yeah, this is yeah, I think he's got to go through the building here. Again, simply because you have the HIP units. You guys might be saying, why didn't he just run down the road and get up in the front? Well, there might be a little guy with an LMG right here going to blast your assets down as you go down the road, because he covers this side as well. That's another good spot to have a guy hidden.
It's the minefield analogy.
Yeah.
You know he's out there. You just don't know where.
You just don't know where he is. And if you're moving as a stack with the leader, you just got to move through the stone buildings, and that's all you can do. He could theoretically move guys singly, but if he's only just moves a squad, 1, 2, 3, 4, it doesn't really get him anywhere. So just stay in the building.
In his next movement phase, he gets past that, but that's when he starts his assault across the street. And he did that beautifully. Yeah, he really did.
Well, let's get to that real quick, then. That's very important.
That's something you're going to want to talk about, because he did that very, very well.
Okay, so he's advanced moving his guys up. Did he rally this guy, the bonehead right here? No, he didn't. Jeez, that's bad. Yeah. But they're up now anyway. They're all going to be rallied here, and you have to leave this guy in the back, half squad. Even if it's a full squad, you got 2 squads up. You just got to move. You've got time. You got 6 turns. You ain't got time to sit back here for 2 turns doing shit. Self-rally that guy. He either self-rallies or he doesn't play the game. Yeah. That's all there is to it. You can't wait for him. Yeah. And
so there's my skulk where I'm getting out of the way of his defensive.
You can't take a 12 shot.
No.
So it's America turn 3. Oh yeah, he puts his little marker. Yeah, definitely put that marker on there. That boosts your morale instantly. Hey, look at that. Good deal. You self-rallies him. Excellent. So he drops his smoke here. Talk us through the step. You let me know. Just tell me step through. So he smokes with one of his units.
Yep.
And then he simply moves into it. So it throws 2 movement factors to drop the smoke, 2 movement factors to move into the smoke.
Right.
So that's the first guy.
He's got, and they did one guy just to see what was there, and then I, not knowing what was coming, I decided not to take a shot, and he starts moving into the. He's basically doing exactly what I wanted him to do at this point.
Right.
And it gets pretty ugly for the 7-0 stack here from here on out. But
okay.
Go ahead and fast forward and see what happens.
Right. No, I'm going I'm just going to talk about his move here initially.
Okay.
I can see what he's doing. I think let's just look at this move real quick, and let's pop into Keith's head just for a second. As soon as I saw this, it's like, oh, he's in a tough spot, because if he breaks, where can he route? Where's he going to route to?
A5.
He's going to go to which one?
K5.
J5? Yeah.
K5. Kilo 5.
Kilo 5. Okay, either one. He can go to either one, right?
Yeah.
So where's he got to route? He's got to route through J4 or I5, right? To get there.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those are interdictable hexes.
Absolutely.
Okay. If he moved to J3 and he broke, could he get to K5?
Yeah.
Right. He could just go K4 and K5 with no interdiction, right?
Yeah.
But this is where Keith's attack comes into play. And I think this is exactly what he was thinking. I would love to. God, I wish he was here. I have no problem with. And you say, Stu, why? Because he's going to get screwed if he breaks, right? If he doesn't break, what does that give him? When this unit doesn't break, because he's going to fire on him, right?
Yeah.
And did you first fire on him?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Basically, that was just I just wanted him to.
Oh, because he's got these guys
Wanted
you
to
move
give him
too,
a little
right?
bit of taste. I knew that stuff was coming around the corner.
Oh,
and,
right.
Basically, wanted to know where it was going. I was more worried about the demo charge than anything else.
Oh, because he hasn't moved yet, right? So in this case here, you could say, "Hey, I would move into J3 because it's safer to route." But what does I4 give you that J3 doesn't in the advanced fire phase, and possibly in the route phase per se? This is where you're thinking route phase. You're not thinking advanced fire phase. You're thinking route phase. So him being here, taking the risk for that shot to being a 12+3. Again, he may have thought that you were going to. He's got some big boys over here, and 10-2.
Yeah.
There's some hot heat coming down the road, and you got a leader. You got a bunch of shit going on here. Holding that shot's pretty important, and it's a key decision that you're making as a squad leader player. This is a riskier position, but is it? You know, if the player is astute enough that he knows that the shit's coming downhill, and I got to be prepared for that as well, I could always take that shot later. I could first fire over here and then subsequent first fire over here. Is it a great shot? No. But what Keith's done is Keith has put himself into a position. Let's say nobody else makes it across. Well, this smoke's going to be gone, and he's going to have a 12+3 shot from these two units alone on him. So it's 12+3 or 12+3 back. And if this unit breaks, if the 7-0 breaks there, where is he going to route to?
Well, 7-0 is going to head back towards the tractor works. He's going to be heading back towards.
Well, what's his route path? Where's he got to go?
Well,
H1.
H1, right? Is that where the American wants that little bastard to go?
No.
He damn well believe he does. He doesn't want him to go through here. He wants him out of the victory area. So this is I'm hoping that he's thinking this. I really hope, and this is what you guys need to be thinking as well. Riskier position. If he breaks, he's going to be interdicted, or he could low crawl, but because the leader could always advance up. Not
Couldn't
a problem.
He route to J2?
He could route to J2. He could route to J2, but we're fine with that, right? Because where's he going after J2? Because we're advancing up. These guys are advancing up later. Whatever situation. He's got other guys in the back too. That's assuming all these guys are broken. So even if he does route to J2, that's fine with us because we're advancing, and that guy's got a route next turn anyway, and he's going to be interdicted. He's going to low crawl, and he'll die. But if we put him in J3 and if he breaks, where's he going? Tractor works.
Yeah.
That's tractor works, right? And then he's got to break.
Go ahead and step through the rest of his movement phase, and you'll see what I was faced with.
Yeah, exactly. So John, again, I'm just picking that apart where it's a riskier position.
Totally understand.
Yeah, and John's holding his fire because he knows bad guys are coming. There's one bad guy, and that LOS is probably close. Oh, you guys didn't string that? Okay.
Yeah.
And that's a first fire. No, did you first fire? You first fired the squad.
I think. No, I guess it was just squad. Yeah.
Yeah, you first fire the squad, and that's the squad LMG right there,
Yeah.
I guess. And yeah, he final fired, and here comes the stack
Yeah.
across the street. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Here he
6, 7.
comes. So
Yeah, wow.
now,
Yeah, that's trouble.
I took the 238 up, but look at what he does. I mean, all these guys get rid of cruises. I mean, come on. I mean, you're talking about a half squad. Look what he does.
Yeah.
He actually DMs a paratrooper squad.
Yeah, that 1-2 is huge, but
Yeah.
but the 1-2 here is safer than the 2-2 there, right? You know, give me that shot.
True.
That's better than that
Yeah.
shot. That's fine. 1-2. He got unlucky. That happens.
Yeah.
It happens. And then the 10-2 CXing. I hope we see it. Oh, he goes down there, comes around the back door. Not a problem. Of course, there's no residual there, right? Because it's only 1 firepower.
Right.
2, 4. Now that guy, this guy here, I would CX him down the backside. Simply because your big giant stack, your 10-2 and your 9-1 made it across the road without getting shot by the hidden guy. Right? That's who's going to be taking the target. This 337 is then clear to CX down here, which is fine. You know, this is not a big deal, but you know,
we never got to that part of the game. But if I had to guess, he was probably having him in the back to make sure that I didn't have somebody hiding off here in the inner regions that could come in and grab that hex on the last game.
Yeah, that's
last turn.
Yeah, that's
So,
the cheesiness about HIP units and the Germans moving last, which makes it really hard for the Americans.
Total supposition on my part.
Yeah, really hard for the Americans, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because literally he could just, especially with the 2 half squads, if you hipped, let's say you hipped a half squad here, right?
Yeah.
You know, or you might hip a half squad here. He could easily just make it across, and he has to keep pushing forward.
Yeah.
So I'm not a big fan of the I have HIP, you have to get everything and keep it all, and keep me from getting it all back. Not a real big fan of that sort of thing, but it's okay.
Yeah.
So,
with the advanced fire, what you're looking at is that the leader breaks, and for some inexplicable reason, the squad does not.
okay, that's fine.
But
Oh, your leader disintegrates. What happened to him?
yeah,
What do you mean resync? Just refresh it.
Yeah, right click on my name and hit synchronize, or leave the room and come back in on the Vassal server, because sometimes the synchronize doesn't really work. So your 7-0 is actually up in J3.
yeah,
That's where he moved there. Even if you were in I3, doesn't really matter. That move is still the same. That's the only spot that he could go to.
yeah.
And that's not a problem. He just needs to he just needs to bust ass across right there. And here's where okay, you're actually in a different position. So yeah, that's what happens. Is he got in a position you broke and you failed your route. So you're absolutely right. That was yeah, I see. Okay, that first firefight. Yeah, wow, wow. And then he moves over there. He takes that shot there.
As soon as he gets there, it's game over for anybody that breaks there.
Yeah. Yeah, move there, boom, boom, boom. No problem. No problem. Advanced fire phase. That's like a 36 or something like that. Yeah. God. And that's, I love the 36 charge, but when you're talking about +3, if you gack a 10, that's a 1 morale check.
Yeah.
And I would, considering if all you need to do is to break them, maximize your chances of them breaking by I would probably split that up into a 16 and a 16. He does kill the leader, not a big deal, and you're just going to jump in close combat and destroy the guy anyway, not a big deal. But 16, if you just want to break him so you don't have to jump in close combat, a 16 and a 16 because everyone else is CX'd. The leader's not going to do anything. These guys aren't going to do anything down here. Just make sure you break. You just have to break them to kill them, and that's why your 7-0's gone. Good. I'm glad we clarified that.
And again, I was just looking to slow him up a little bit and keep him out of the tractor works as long as possible because that was my Alamo.
Jesus Christ.
He has done literally everything that I've asked him to. He is about now to die gloriously. No ambush. And I'm gone. So, and he picks up the LMG and then it gets, this is where it gets weird. This is where it just gets.
Yeah. See this. Even still, you've got American broken units, stuff like that. For all intents and purposes, he's only got 4 squads here, and you've got, let's say only one of your hidden guys is over here. We know where they are, so you got one to. I mean, only 4 squads, and wow, it's just maybe that's the idea. Is they have to get over here by turn 3 minimum. But man, if he takes this break here on turn 2 and they have to route back here, then you could pursue them. Let's just say a hidden unit were popped open here or whatever, and he took that giant hit that he took right in the beginning. Which he's going to do now, right?
It's coming.
There's no freaking chance, man. I mean, the one thing about the OBA in this game is it's static. It's static. Whereas an ASL game, you can move it around a little bit. You don't have a lot of LOS here, but it doesn't really matter. It's static. It's like a guessing game, but you know where he's going to, So for all intents and purposes, if you want to be really conservative, you put one OBA here and you put the other OBA right here. And hell, you could just vacate the entire area and just blast him, and hopefully, and then come back in and try and wallop him. That's pretty wild. But yeah, John just becomes a bad guy, and he just.
This is where it gets really interesting. The prep fire counter. That's where my artillery lands.
Yeah.
And he has the worst luck on.
God, look at his 9s and shit.
Look at this. I mean, it just rips up the entire attack.
Well, your 4 doesn't help either.
Well, yeah.
Your 4 and your 5, but still.
Now, the way it was, for each individual attack, it's 16 firepower you roll for that.
Oh, that's right. You roll for each one. That's right.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, for all those DM units, right.
This is where I start to get. Now, hold it right there. Hold it right there.
Okay.
This was basically about where.
Jesus.
My idea was to advance that 548 down there, and then just scatter all of those DM'd units.
Yep.
Out of that building.
Yep.
Now, Keith, as you know, he's been a frequent visitor to your Tactical Tuesdays, and he says, John, you can end this game right here. Just CX your 238 and your leader over here to about K2.
Yeah.
And game over. And I said, no, that's really kind of gamey. He says, no, go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
So I did. So go ahead and fast forward. I mean,
all those guys died. Good Lord.
I mean, it was ugly. I mean, it was. Look at that. And then I revealed another one of my.
He could have gone down the other way. He could have gone down to K4. Holy shit.
Well, I could have, but they were going to route out.
That's right. Yeah.
They were going to route out to K5 anyhow, and so I got a leader, 2 squads, and then these guys, they route out, the low crawl, get back. They don't have a leader with them. They're out of the game.
Wow. You didn't jump to 10-2?
Why? He was going to have to come to me. I had a medium machine gun, a 5.48.
The game was there. It's not a big deal.
Never fired a round.
Oh my gosh.
we go back and forth a little bit this way. He shoots me up a little bit. It's sort of back and forth, and
that's right. That was your last FFE too, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So
and there's your
no more artillery, but he just did not have the force to get in there and do the knife fight in the buildings.
Right, because now those guys are broken. Yeah, because you can't afford to be broken. And he just didn't have the forces left of that. Wow. He's pretty resilient. I mean, to be honest with you,
he really was. I mean, after those first 2 artillery strikes, he reconstituted basically his entire force and came at me. And you saw that street crossing. That was beautiful. That
was very good, because those guys are in J3 instead of over here. J3, you just throw the smoke, get across. You know, the other guy could have moved up and dropped another smoke like on you or something like that, but whatever. Yeah, it doesn't matter. You took your shots on him. Yeah, and he survived those. He just hit both of your artillery hexes, and you rolled really well and paid the price on him.
Any other place, it would have been just a straight up knife fight, like War of the Rats. I mean, just basically force on force.
Right.
But that one artillery barrage, look, one turn ago, what did the board look like? And now look at it now.
Right. Wow, that's crazy. So yeah, your plan was simply to just delay him from J5. He takes that shot with the OBA, which worked. Slows him down a little bit. Come across, move to J3. He does an excellent smoke and jump across the road. Like you say, textbook. Smoke, advance it. Smoke, advance in, possibly draw fire from you. And that way the other guy can just run across freely. You didn't fire at either of them because you knew the heat was coming. The heat came. You paid for it with a leader. And then the squad, I think, was up a little bit later. But he sent everything he had on you, which was, I mean, he actually still made risks, because he didn't know if hidden units were down here by the 8-0. He still made risks, but he just said, hey, I got to do it. I got to make a risk, which is what Keith does anyway. He likes to attack, and he's very aggressive. And he got to where he needed to go, and yeah, you just got pounded with all that OBA. That's crazy. Yeah, I would think that the other OBA was, in defense of Keith, I would think the other one would be over here, or like right here, because you're just gonna, the way you were playing is defend here, and he probably saw that you were just gonna drop back, and once you go into this building here, then you just drop one in front of you right at the game end. That's what I would think. That's reasonable. Very reasonable.
Given you had that 7 hex barrage pattern, and it could move. I wanted to be 2 hexes away from that thing.
Right.
And so that was the best compromise I'd come up with. I wanted to have at least one location that I had a reasonable shot, maybe slow him up, and another shot where I knew he was going to have to come, and then just see what happens. Never in my wildest dreams did I think I was going to get the rolls that I did.
That's kind of crazy, yeah. Very effective OBA. And now consider this, where when you have well, I won't even go there. It's not applicable here. So, but anyway, OBA very effective, and it does that damage that you guys saw right there. This one, it looks like it's a fun scenario in terms of avoiding the OBA and avoiding the HIP units. So, but unfortunately for the Americans, I mean, since you have to set up in buildings, right? The HIP, I'm going to check the SSO on it. Set up in buildings. In building hexes, correct. Yep. Set up in building hexes. So they can't be in the woods. The buildings right here is about where he could be. Maybe on the backside here. It might be a little bit too far out. N3 might be okay, but still a half squad here should be enough to stop him. So yeah, that's another dangerous thing. Even if Keith did well and pushed you the whole way out, if you didn't reveal your entire force, and the funny thing is, John, is that since you didn't place a 238 on the board, he might say, oh, his 238's not up. I have to make sure that the 238's not hidden either. So that can really affect his game plan. Like if all of your units pop up and he kind of forgot that 2 of them were already hidden and he didn't take into account, essentially counting at that point, that can really throw off his game. And what you need to do there with him is hopefully, well, obviously he's going to be thinking to himself, it's like, oh, okay, where's that other 238? But if he brings it up in the game, you might want to refresh it. Oh shit, I didn't place him on the map, something like that, because
I totally missed it, and he probably was, and I just missed it.
Spacing him is really fine, but I've gotten a conversation actually with Pete about units on the board and hidden units, and specifically with scenarios like this. It actually has to do with concealment counters, but the same sort of thing applies. Is, are you obligated, because you have hidden units here, right? Let's say you just hid one squad, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then because it says two multi-man counters, so it's either a squad and a squad, or two half squads, or whatever. Usually it's squad equivalents. So this is a multi-man counter, so you either do two half squads or whatever combination. So there will be some people that they play. I don't like this, but they will hip one guy, right, and say, so you brought this guy out of hip in F5, right?
Yeah.
And then let's say you left the other guy off the board. You know, you accidentally left him off the board,
right,
or whatever, and then he has to count on the other unit being on hip, he has to take into account that other unit. Is essentially what I'm trying to get to without bumbling over myself. So
no,
that could actually,
I see what you're saying.
yeah, that could actually change his game plan up a bit. And one of the situations has to do with concealment units. Since it doesn't apply in SK, I'm not going to cover it. But the same principle applies where, let's say I didn't actually put my guys on the board for whatever reason that might be, just to get into his head, is that it could change the game up a lot. But yeah, he did well getting across. He was mobilizing. He still had a couple turns to go, and yeah, you were kind of beat up, to be honest with you. You have two squads. If you had two more squads, this would be pretty rough. Yeah. And again, he's got to go to now it's Hex.
I don't think he had the time. So
let's see, Hex controlling all buildings. So again, in the difference between the which one is it? S3, where it's building hex control. This is simply building control. Control the 25 building hexes. This is building control. So if the Americans punch this guy and this 5, 4, 8, and 8 leader leaves, and there's an American in that hex, he then controls the entire building. So at least it's not hex control, it's simply building control. So that makes a difference in there. So
true statement, but that's one example, and you had 11 other buildings, I think maybe 12, you know, where they were just single hex buildings, you know, and so there's.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. But once he punches out of this one, the whole thing is his. Again, you know, these guys back here are pretty rough. I mean, if you, I think his approach was, to be honest with you, I think it was a better approach. I may have approached over here, but tell me what the problem I would face. Let's say I approach over here, and I take my Americans here, and you just mirror it. Throw the Germans on the left hand side, and the Americans on the right. The Americans are over here, and Germans are over here later in the game, right? The Americans are making their push this way. What problems do I have as the Americans versus what Keith chose to attack over here? Because Keith occupied this building here and then went in, right, that way. What problems would I face coming this way? And then, because remember, you don't have a lot of forces on both sides. What's something I have to take into consideration? It has to do with HIP. For all intents and purposes, I have to go. If John still has HIP units left, I have to go take these, quote, victory point hexes as well, even though they're not. But he can have a German unit. This little 238 can be over here or in the back one or where the hell ever. And HIP So when he knows he could be doing exactly what John did before, is pull the Americans where he wants them to go, keep moving backwards, and so on and so forth, and then the Americans are moving forward because he's probably going to take casualties. Then this guy at the end of the game, because the Americans, all he has to do is assault, move, advance phase.
Yep.
You know, so the Americans,
That last move.
yeah. So the Americans, even though these aren't victory point hexes, they are victory point hexes if you don't have those other units popped out of their hip. If you get the hip out early, you can ignore those. If you don't, then you have to send somebody over here, and that's where that half squad's good. But but if he gets hammered like a squad or a half squad, then it could throw a monkey wrench in your plans, gentlemen. So just know that even though you have the victory point hexes here, knowing that now if the Americans went last, it wouldn't be a problem because the Germans would have to come out, and then the Americans could react to the Germans' movement when they come out of hip. But since the Germans have the last turn, you have to secure everything within. You either have to move through all these buildings, right, all of them, or make sure you got units that are covering and protecting those buildings for that last guy moving across. And what's another problem you have to deal with the Germans coming across? He's got 8 morale.
Yeah.
He's got 8 morale. I mean, if he fires 6-2, is he going to take a hit? Yeah, but he's got the best chance of any unit in the game, other than of course your 10 morale units and 9. But he's got the best chance as a multi-man counter of making that morale check. Because all he has to do is assault move, so he's not taking -2, he's only taking -1, and then he advance phases. So
and he just does. The Americans just didn't have the force structure to do that sort of stuff.
Right. So I think I didn't necessarily like Keith's approach over here, but it kind of makes sense where he's got this bullshit building here to deal with, right?
Yeah.
And then he's got to clear these buildings that are, you know, at the end, and if he could truncate his way back here and just kind of go for it, he doesn't really have to worry about these guys. He just has to worry about essentially these 4 hexes back here are the 1, 2. You know, this one doesn't even apply because he's going to move through it anyway. 1, 2, 3. I don't even know if that N3, maybe 1, 2 in this building here, because N1's kind of far. But can you make it? Yeah, but you could do certain things. But so it's very interesting in that when you have that hip, it really a hip and they move last, and it's about control. It's very difficult. So anytime you guys play this, whether you're attacking or defending, you take into account who moves last and what could they do when they move last. You know, since you only have like John said, a ragtag force available to you here, not a lot of guys, and if he takes casualties, because the OBA will break some dudes. I mean, it's just a matter of time. It's going to break some dudes. Then it's very difficult in that sort of situation. You have to set up for the end game. Even if all these Germans are dead and you have Americans, I mean, how are you going to set up this? You probably got to put a guy here if you haven't done these, you know. And doing these, you could actually use your leaders to clear these out. You could CX them, go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then advance, and then you could have your leaders act as scouts at that point. Because your 9-1, your 10-2 is going to be in the front. Pretty much it's a 2-hex fight. You know, once you get over here, you're going to be piling guys up. It's going to be a 2-hex fight. That's probably what you want the 8-0 to be doing. Maybe with a half squad, you know, 8-0 with a half squad running around, so at least he has some fire. But actually, I can move them separately, you know. But if you've got 3 or 4 units up here at the end of the game, you know, clearing the city blocks out, and you got a guy up here. Let's say you already lost 2 units. You know, these guys are going to be dishing out some pain, right? With the -2 and the -1 leader. Very, very good. Especially the -2 leader. He's going to be clearing building hexes like that. I mean, it's 2 morale checks pretty much all day. So they're going to wipe up this building. But these guys, you have to have, again, role. That's another thing Keith is learning about, is role playing. This guy isn't necessarily going to be your rally guy. He's going to be the one looking for this bullshit. He's looking for the end game. The 8-0 and the 3-3-7 are controlling the end game of the Germans. And again, if you're moving from left to right, as Keith was doing, once you grab this building here, You probably got something like this. You probably don't have to worry about that. You know, you just don't have to worry about that. But, you know, that's where you take these guys here. Whether you go from left to right or right to left, again, the 80 and 337, you move them down here and you start scouting these buildings out here. Probably separately. You don't want them to both break at the same time. You want the 80's got 8 movement factors. CX them. If he's here, 2, 4, 6, 8, advance. Okay, now they're all clear. Now we just move forward and win the game. So, but definitely take that into account. It's just simply not, this is the victory hex. I can ignore everything else. You know, with the HIP, you've got to clear all the neighborhoods around it. You know, I don't care what direction you're looking at. You know, if you don't come up through here, you know, these are assault move, advance phase, assault move, advance phase. All 4 of those hexes. That's what I'd be looking for. I'd be looking for assault move, advance phase opportunities, which is why I kind of discounted N1, because you got a full move. You got a haul ass, and then you know, there's no assault move, advance phase to minimize your risk. So very dangerous, very interesting scenario, John. I'm so glad you shared it with us. A very interesting scenario.
It was interesting. I was hoping we were going to play another one out of the pack, and maybe our next game will be that, unless he wants to flip sides on this. But yeah, I was kind of surprised that he took the Americans, but I know he said in the past that he's trying to figure out how to attack more effectively. I think he's to the point now where he's trying to figure out how to bring the hurt, you know, to where it needs to be brought. And my guess is, since it was, you know, essentially you're looking at a city fight, you know, with just tons of stone buildings, that's why he had the stacks the way he did, because he wanted those kill stacks to be able to take care of whatever he was going to run into.
Right.
And,
Yeah. I don't mind the stacks loaded per se. He'd probably just want to bunch up in case, you know, something got in his way.
yeah.
You know, getting hit with the OBA again. It's either probably here, or here. I mean, or down here, because that's where the Americans going to their jumping off points. As the Germans, you probably, obviously you want one in the victory area, because that's the Americans have to be there, and you chose to throw one of your other ones over here. If he came down here, you only had that one spot, which it still could be useful. You could just pound.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so definitely for the Germans. I mean, I wouldn't put 2 of them up there and nothing in the V area, simply because you're gonna be in trouble if he takes the other one, the other direction. Yeah. But yeah, very interesting scenario. Actually, it's not only that it's got the scenario special rules, but just in terms of you know, including the HIP and things like that. Yeah. And it's just very kind of interesting. And the Americans could, without penalty, gotcha. So they add that rule in there, scenario special rule 3 as well. The Americans, you can use any available demo charge counter without penalty. So
here's the story behind that. I had to do a little bit of research. What are they saying? You want demo charge on there. I don't think the original
original SK1 only gave you 1 demo charge.
And they wanted to, if you could only come up with a German demo charge, they didn't want to attach the captured use penalty to it. If you just needed to have that representation on the game, you're exactly right. So,
but,
the original counter mix in SK1 only had 1 American demo charge.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So because it was probably.
Oh, that's interesting.
Grab another demo charge and pretend it's an American one.
Right. Well, obviously it's an American one, but I'm not really sure that's necessary, but that makes sense.
Well, back then it was. Now you just reach in and grab one from another starter pack. But initially, they're probably, as you said, this was probably done, after before even SK2 maybe came out, and so only had he only had the one. So
I'm pretty sure it was, So.
Right. Because that only adds with only the balance makes that an issue.
Right.
Only a balance that makes it an issue. I would have, because that seems kind of like redundant. Obviously, it's clear and they could use any demo charge without penalty. Yeah, because that's like, what? They're all elite anyway. So it says maybe it's like if the balance is added, you know, it does the same thing.
Yeah.
But there again, you know, because if you should happen to capture that German demo charge, it's a captured German demo charge. It's a captured weapon from your perspective. You're still qualified to use it, but it's still a captured weapon if you should have happened to capture the second demo charge from the OB. So, but that distinction isn't made. It just simply says the Americans. So, but interesting. That's really interesting. Yeah. Oh, very cool. Very cool. So yeah, really tough scenario. I kind of like the flavor of it. I think that it's obviously 6 turns, typical starter kit. I think you can really play this a couple times. Obviously the OBA is going to be like somewhere in the victory hex, but if you could avoid that OBA, I mean, you could really have a different result. And the HIP units, it really throws.
Absolutely.
Really,
I mean, you know, the variables are literally infinite on this scenario. I mean, you're never going to get the same result twice.
Right.
And I've probably been spoiled. I'm going to think that every time I use artillery in the future, I'm going to get the exact same results I got.
Yeah.
To start the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Yeah, you got good. Well, first of all, you ran through both of them, and you got good rolls on both of them. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, seeing that if the Americans were to avoid easily one of them, and probably knowing after playing it through one time, you guys probably know what's a good tactic is back up and let the Americans enter the FFE, the big explosion area, the big artillery area. That might be another little kind of, is it there or isn't it there, where you're playing with his mind. You know, I'm backing up, come on, I'm giving up these buildings, and then no FFE comes and he's like assault moving and, you know, slowing him up, you know. I mean, that's what's happening. But this is a mind game scenario, and
huge. And I think the fact that I in my very first defensive fire phase, you know, I'm dropping artillery on him and breaking a lot of his units. That messed him up a little bit.
Right.
And so I'm, you know, from a mindset standpoint, and you know, the fact that he was able to get, you know, his entire force back in the game as effectively as he did, I thought was brilliant. So.
Yeah.
And you hit him really hard that early in the game. You know, that could be, you know, failing a personal morale check too.
Yeah, that's huge.
It would do it for me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, half those units. It's rough. It's a rough position to be in. To get hit with that, then have to run away from it, and without him actually knowing any of the hidden units, he's still got to deal with all that crap. So yeah, he started with a big old bloody nose right in the beginning, and yeah, that's kind of crazy. But at least he pointed out, at least a friendly game, he pointed out, say, hey, you can kill all my guys, stuff like that. That's kind of what you want to do when both you guys are coming up and just trying your best to perform the best, and realize that when those opportunities exist, that you just take them and just kind of go for the jugular and just end it right then and there. You know, because the Americans, you saw how the Americans bounced back really quickly, even without the -2 leader. They kind of bounced back pretty quickly, and yeah, they've got firepower, they've got smoke, so they could advance and they can make their way to where you need to be pretty quickly, and that's pretty much defines the Americans. You could beat them up early, but they're still going to be there. They're going to come right back at you, and yeah, this I think this is wow. This kind of looks like a gem of a scenario again, because you don't have a lot of forces. It's more of a role-playing scenario where, like, you had roles for all your German units. Okay, these guys are going to be doing this. You know, this 238 is going to be doing that. The 447 LMG is going to be, instead of just setting them up in the front, oh, these guys, I'm just going to fire on whoever the hell shows up, you know, sort of thing. You had specific plans for specific units, and that if you don't have that in this game, you know, I can imagine watching some other players play this game and putting a whole bunch of units like in the M6 building where the Americans could just stop the Americans from coming across. It's like, or all the guys back in the big building. It's like, you see that, and it's really funny. And you guys know me. You went at S3 where you got the simple equation and that building on the right hand side.
B1.
Oh shit, man! I watched a scenario the other day. Some guy had 3 squads in LMG in that fucking building. It's like, oh my god, the Americans have 6 range. If they break you, you have to low crawl, and you just there are better spots to be. Yes, can it shoot Americans that might be moving the open ground? Yeah, but you know, once the Americans get in the buildings, you're done. You're not winning that fight. Again, like sort of like you, John, here with the unit in J5. Let me pop this thing down. In your unit in J5, you know, you're willing to let that unit die. I mean, if the Americans made some sort of rash maneuver, he's firing and slowing as much guys up as possible, and that's sort of the same situation, that one building on the right hand side. But that, at least in that instance, you have other opportunities, other locations where you can be to be there, because for all intents and purposes, that building location, the defense isn't what you're looking at, it's the location. And you have other locations in that area which are woods. I think sometimes I put a guy in the woods. It's like, well, Stu, you're in woods, there's no defense there. Well, yeah, that's fine. All I'm doing is I'm getting a first shot and I'm breaking a couple of units and I'm getting the hell out of there. You know, you're not going to go toe to toe with 3 American squads, even in a stone building. So and again, like John did here, if he breaks, he routes back to Alamo. You know, if you break in that woods, where are you going? You're probably going back to the Alamo, and the Americans aren't going to get over there for 2 or 3 turns anyway. He's going to be rallied. You'll be fine. So yeah, very important things. Again, I like the way Keith shoved his units across. You got to take chances when you're going across. Throw smoke as best as you can, gentlemen. If the first guy doesn't do it, the second guy throws it. He fails it. You know, sometimes you just got to bite the bullet and assault move the rest of it over there. But if you can.
And he had everything stacked up exactly as he needed to, and you saw how he was going to get that stuff across. I mean, it was just, you know, when I saw basically everything that was on the board, you know, essentially sitting on my back porch, I was thinking, maybe I didn't think this through as well as I thought I had. So
yeah, all you could do.
You need to go to the ASL archive and look at, you know, how this has played out. You know, how many times the Americans have won this.
Pretty much what you'll probably see in most of those scenarios is you might have a HIP guy in J3, right? I would anticipate a HIP guy in J3 if you don't have German units there, and maybe one guy over here, or you know, something like that. Or I wouldn't presume one will be across the street over there.
What do you think of the HIP guy in November 3?
November 3, that's a tight spot. I don't think most of your SK players will ever put a guy here, unless I think they've I don't know, unless they've played some ASL players or playing an ASL player, or someone that's familiar with the HIP thing. That's a good spot. But again, that's extremely risky, right? Because you're away from your victory conditions.
Right.
This is to catch the guy coming down the backside.
And when you route, you're most likely going to have to route towards P2.
Right. And so if he breaks, he's done. That's extreme risk. And with the American smoke, right? And which a lot of SKers don't. I've seen some guys they just never use smoke. You'll see some Americans that may have lost this game. They probably just don't use smoke. You know?
Oh, that was me 6 months ago. I never used smoke.
Right? You just don't use, and you have to have smoke. I mean, you just have to have smoke.
Yes,
Yeah, but N3 would be a very, very tricky, risky one. You could possibly go N3 if you had both your FFEs in the village and you didn't use any FFEs in the beginning. and that way you could just pound, and he could shoot over here. Wait till they go into the building or something like that. There's different, different avenues to approach, but I can almost guarantee you most of your SK players, your standard SK players, will put all their guys in the victory area. That's just what
short length of the scenario too.
Yeah, short length of scenario,
Yeah.
and they may not realize that they have the last turn to reoccupy a single hex.
Well, that's a killer, man. Having the Germans moving last really puts the heat on the Americans too.
Right. If and so I think a real an experienced SK player that understands control and seeing that there's no half turn on turn 6. I don't know if that should be a half turn by fault. I'm not sure, but that leaves that little sleaze move open. I know a lot of guys that won't play any scenarios at all that deal with control if the HIP defender moves last, because in ASL your mobility is far superior, and so you could literally be 6 hexes away. I mean, literally every single hex on this board would have to be occupied by the Americans to go through in an ASL scenario, simply because of the mobility. And that's kind of gamey. It's very gamey at that point. Yes, do you have to seek out and destroy the guys, but it's pretty gamey. Again, like John did, he baited the guy. How many other SKers would bait them? They might just put them like, they might actually, if they defend here, they probably won't put the FFEs on top of themselves, right? Sort of what John did. He kind of put one on top of himself. They probably put them out here, and if the Americans split or went the other direction, there's no impact at all during the game. And so those could be kind of wishy-washy scenarios. And so there are a number of plays, again 30 plays for this scenario on the Roar record, 17-13 Americans, but when I first saw it, it's like, wow. I mean, you've got to clear all those buildings out. You've got 2 HIP units and you've got FFEs. That's pretty rough. That's just rough. So
if you take a look at the turn track, I just fixed it. I made the turn 6 half a turn, so Americans get last move now. So
this is huge. This would actually.
I mean, unfortunately, he is playing with you. I mean, the actual card. I mean, unless they updated it, the actual card is Germans move last.
Yeah. It's very strong.
No, I know. Yeah, it's
very strong. So again, you might have some. I'm not sure if any of those games that the Germans. Well, tell me what problem in putting a HIP unit back here if the Americans come this way and go this way. If you have one HIP unit there and there's say there's an American straggler up here in E5 defending against like possibly these buildings or something weird like that for whatever reason. If you had a hidden unit here, you want to troll them and you want to try and get across, you're not going to control the building. You'd have to move the whole way up here. It's still like cat or mouse, sort of like a cat or mouse field, where if you know your opponent's overly aggressive, at that point you have to do what John did and try and guide the Americans where he wanted them to go. And with Keith's aggression and a couple good FFE rolls here and there, that's a good deal. Plus they didn't drift. Neither of those FFEs drift. They're not really going to drift that often. But you'd have to take some risks, and you'd have to take some risks as the Germans in this one. If you wanted to cheese that last HIP move over, I mean, you could literally put, a half squad here, and then maybe a half squad, I don't know, here, and then go for that, because I don't know of anybody going to set up over here, because if you put both the guys here HIP, there's that possibility. And the Americans run there and bounce back, they're in open ground. And if you have a unit right here, He's just gonna shoot it. So it's really rough. It's really rough. You'd have to play through a couple of the safest one. I might put my guys here and just, I'd load everything up. First of all, I'd have a guy here prep firing on anybody that's an LOS, and the 10-2 is here just ripping guys up, and the other guys are advancing up through here. Yeah, you're gonna have shots in between, but that's, you can just go, 2-4, some crap like that. And but again, FFE, right? That's what our artillery is going to be. And,
no kidding, yeah.
But yeah, I think that's where it's one of those situations, and
yeah, but the German has to set up first, so that's part of the game. So the American, if the German doesn't know where the American is going to initially set up.
Right.
Oh.
And that's what makes all 4 of these hexes very dangerous for the Germans to set up in, because you've got shit. What's that? 24 firepower with a 10-2 leader, right here. You've got the Stackberg going on right here. You've got Stackberg right there, 100% of the time.
Yeah.
And these are very dangerous. Even this one here, this was probably blocked, but these are very dangerous. If you stack anybody there, they're going to be broken. That's a guarantee, and then the other units can just go up. So very risky. So
one of the reasons why I didn't want to put a HIP unit, sort of in one of the outlier buildings, a long ways away from the victory condition area, was that as soon as you move the thing, you lose the HIP, and that sort of takes the mystery out of the thing.
Right.
And if you reveal your entire force, it makes his tactical solution a lot easier. And I just wanted to try to.
Well, I mean,
as long as I.
Yeah, it's real tricky. I mean, as the German hipping a guy outside the victory hexes, there's a number of good spots, but those are all, if the Americans are moving there, you essentially are losing that end of game troll going on where you could just jump out. I mean, again, M5 is a good one, but he's got to take J5 anyway. So it's like, well, how's he going to get there? If he goes this way, he's got to go through open ground. Can he smoke there? Yeah. But most guys will just go right through here. So even down here,
one little weird victory hex, out there at J5. That's one of the biggest reasons why I thought he was going to come the way he ultimately did.
Right.
Just because he has to come that way.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense.
Clear out. So,
yeah, it's very, very interesting. Very interesting. So,
as I was going to say, one of the great military axioms is, reserves. The value of reserves drop precipitously as soon as they're used.
Yeah.
Always.
Right. So, yeah, it's pretty much over.
Their value drops massively. Yeah. Sometimes you got to do it. You got to do it, but you always kind of hope, God, I can just hold this division back.
Yeah, their strength is in their being the status of being reserve or hidden. Absolutely.
They're free to move. Yeah, they're free to move.
Very, very strong. And so that's pretty crazy. So interesting, very interesting game. I say I'm glad you brought this one up. I didn't know if it was a normal one, but it's got the OBA. I was very interested in what? Be quiet. I was very interested in how the OBA pulls out in this one, because I know they have OBA decision and else, but that's done differently, and the HIP as well. So it's very interesting that they added HIP. As a matter of fact, especially like in the starter kit 1, because this is before starter kit 2, so it's the idea of putting that sort of concealment type unit in the game is very forward thinking in that case, and which kind of goes.
It really changed the flavor of the game. So. Right. So
it does, and which is really interesting because I didn't know this one existed, and also kind of goes to reflect that, being starter kit 1, I'm not sure when starter kit 2 came out, 2007 I think, something like that. I'm not exactly sure when, but they added some key facets of ASL in the first rendition of starter kit, because you said it was like it's not expansion pack. What is it?
Beyond the Beaches bonus pack for starter kit 1.
Yeah, I don't know what year that came out in. So
it's possible it was like 2004, 2005.
Wow. Okay, so right when the SK came out. So they're kind of the concept of throwing.
Yeah, SK2 came out in either like 2004, 2005, somewhere around there.
Okay.
Yep.
So,
I imagine you all are familiar with Mark Piktovich's Desperation Morale website, where he lists every possible ASL component ever known to man. He talks about this a good bit, and short answer is he really doesn't have too many good things to say about it. He says it looked like it was sort of a rushed effort, and is probably just some leftover scenarios that didn't quite make the cut for the original starter kit 1. And he says, the reason there's not been any other bonus packs, not to be confused with expansion packs to specific starter kit modules, he says that's probably why.
but again, like you say, SK, I think there's a lot of scenario special rules like the OBA here, like the HIP, keeps it very simplified. You don't have to worry about a whole bunch of weird bullshit going on. It's just straight up roll a d4. It's either going to blow up here or it's going to blow up 1 hex away. I mean, boom, there it is. Why make it more complex than that? You don't. And so it still has the flavor. As long as you balance for that, I'm 100% on board for that type of simplicity. There's a lot of things that are very difficult in this game, and the more simpler that you can make them feel or present themselves to, this is sort of like what we're doing here. I mean, John's been with me the whole time. I'm not sure what type of mental disability he has to stick with me this whole time, but but it must be that Jack Daniels he drinks. He probably drinks like a bottle of Jack before he gets on to Tactical Tuesday or something.
Helps take the edge off.
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, God bless John, man. He's been here the whole time. He's helped it. He's been a big part of this, because I'm doing it for people like John, that want to learn and get better. That not necessarily but want to move on to ASL, but just want to get better at the game. It's just a fun game.
That's why I'm here. I mean, I enjoy the game. I enjoy, in the past I have been reluctant to play people that I don't know.
Right.
And this gives me an opportunity to meet some new people and maybe play some guys that I don't know.
Well, there's another episode of Tactical Tuesday in the books. Thank you for joining us for Tactical Tuesday. Again, if you want to participate in these, and we all want you to participate in these, Discord server, the link will be down below. The link will be good forever until I delete it. So join us. Come and just listen. We had a couple new listeners this week, I believe. Hopefully we'll have some more next week. And come and join the fun. The more people we get, the more we can offer everybody, and everyone will get better at a faster and faster pace. If you get 2 guys, and that's the beauty. If you have 2 guys working at a game, they're only going to pace themselves. If you get 3 guys, somebody's going to be the lead dog. 4 guys, 5 guys, 6 guys, and more. You've got a number of people that are quickening the pace of learning this game and applying the concepts of the game into their particular styles. Going back to the gameplay here, I thank John and Keith for offering their gameplay for us to analyze. I appreciate them for doing that. They're coming along very well. I really liking their gameplay. This particular scenario I liked simply because, like we reiterated earlier, it's a very small board. It has a variety of different avenues of approach that the Americans can take, and you could replay the scenario, one of each kind. It's kind of like a guessing game. Where is he going to put his OBA? Where is he not going to put his OBA? How does the setup reflect on how he's positioning his OBA? Once you play once or twice, you might begin to get into the head of your opponent and understand the way he plays. And as we saw in S55, once you understand the way your opponent plays, you just grab onto that and you go with it. You just go with it. And then it will lead you to something that you might not imagine that you had before. It might open up different avenues of approach for you to happen. Again, Discord server in the description. Click on it. Add your name to it. Sign up for it. Discord's better than Skype. Skype is garbage. Come join us. Learn as a group instead of as an individual. Thank you, and see you next week on Tactical Tuesday.